Welcome back to the Occult Rejects. Our guest tonight is someone who's become a favorite among researchers who love chasing forgotten threads through history. Returning to the show is Joey from Library of the Untold, whose work has earned a reputation for digging into obscure manuscripts, ancient mythologies, religious traditions, and esoteric texts to uncover connections that most people never think to make. This time, he's bringing us one of the most ambitious investigations yet. For thousands of years, civilizations separated by oceans and centuries all placed extraordinary importance on the moon. The Egyptians, Greeks, Mesopotamians, Gnostics, Hermetic philosophers, Hindus, and countless mystery traditions. Countless mystery traditions didn't see it as just another object in the sky. They believed it governed time, dreams, fertility, memory, madness, death, and perhaps most mysteriously of all, the journey of the human soul. Why? Why does the moon appear again and again as a place where souls descend into incarnation, or the gate they must pass through after death? Why do so many traditions connected with forgetfulness, remembrance, and reincarnation? And how did those ancient ideas evolve into modern theories about the moon matrix, lunar consciousness, soul traps, and cycles of rebirth? Tonight, we're going to separate ancient sources from modern interpretations, compare mythology with philosophy, examine what the historical texts actually say, and even ask where modern neuroscience and astronomy intersect or fail to intersect with some of humanity's oldest beliefs. Whether you see the moon as a celestial body, a sacred symbol, a cosmic gateway, or simply one of history's greatest mysteries, this conversation is going to take us through thousands of years of mythology, religion, and esoteric thought. But before we introduce Joey from Library of the Untold, we're going to introduce the rest of the rejects. We got Judith with us tonight. What is going on, Judith? How are you?
I'm fine. And thank you for having me, Joey. I'm so happy. I can't wait for this discussion. Eric, it's nice to see you again. And for everybody else, you can find me on X, YouTube, and Spreaker as the Loon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for making it tonight. I was very happy you could. Figured you'd definitely dig this topic. And we got my man, Eric. What is going on, Eric? Thank you so much for making it tonight, so I really appreciate it.
Hey, guys, I'm happy to be here. I am Eric Arcadian. I'm looking forward to what will certainly be a very interesting conversation tonight. And if you want to catch me on YouTube or any other social media, it's just at Eric Arcadian, or you can check out my show, Music, Myth, and Magic.
Definitely go check out his stuff if you have not yet. Eric, thank you very much for making it. I assumed this would be up your alley because I think we both like thinking about weird shit that just makes you scratch your head. So I'm pretty sure tonight will be one of those. Joey, my man, while you're sitting over there fighting with YouTube or whatever on your phone.
Yeah, I'm trying to look you guys up, and then the shorts started playing. And
Yeah,
I'm the only one not being professional here. Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right. You're good, man. So please let everybody know what's up with you. If people who haven't heard of him yet on this show, if you happen to be that new and you don't know who Joey is, Joey, please let them know what's up.
I host Library of the Untold on YouTube, and it has been a great journey so far. It's been around for about 3 years, and I'm very happy about it. And it's given me a purpose that I cannot even begin to say how grateful I am. And I'm literally learning along the way with everybody else. And this has become one of my go-to stops when it comes to a new subject matter that sucks me in, and I feel very passionate about. I like to test it out here, before having a full-on episode about something. So this is a great place to let it breathe.
No, thank you. We all appreciate it as well. For real. I will even say, I've been watching your show for a minute. I think you've probably been coming on the show for almost a year now. Mm-hmm. Even from when I first came across your channel compared to what you're doing now, not saying I think everything that you've done has been great, but you can even see a progression how you're actually learning more and getting into more deeper and wider things.
Right.
It's actually really interesting to watch you learn and grow yourself on your own show.
There's a snowball effect that has happened when you go from this is a fun theory that comes from this, right? And then you do that a couple times, and then a little bit down the road, you see, oh, those two were connected. And then you say, oh, those two were, and these three were connected like that. And that becomes a new platform to go from. And it becomes almost like a Socratean argument type of compounding effect, where, because with his argument, he would have two pillars that were absolutely true. and then put a new platform on top of that. That's more of a what if. And then you can move from there until eventually it kind of points you in the right direction. And I guess the whole idea is to try to take a little bit of the sensationalism out of what's already extraordinarily fascinating and interesting, because we are dealing, I mean, just like any trade or any subject matter, from politics to unboxing shoes, you're going to have these people who have a big bright thumbnail with a red arrow and they're shocked in the picture, and then they just fail to deliver. And my argument for all of those are like, these great mysteries are already mind-blowing. You don't have to do that. If anything, it's going to weaken that fence a little bit for people who are sitting on it, you know?
I totally agree. I say that a lot, even in some of my solo shows. I always mention that, like, you know, we don't have to start throwing in all these outlandish theories, because if you were to look at the situation, and then some people, I know you're not like this, you will actually look into the science. And there is actually some science coming out about weird shit that I think most people would be very surprised about. So when you start using the actual science and some other things, you don't need that fantastical stuff. It's already crazy as it is.
Right. The fact of the matter that quantum physics and the book of Genesis say the same thing in different languages is enough to astound anybody who's paying a little bit of attention, you know? And then you get into the Gnostic Gospels, where it's basically all of the parts left out of Genesis, and there's the precursor to it. And they start to turn into scientific treatises, which is interesting at how much they line up with some of the weird science that's coming out today. And I don't hesitate to call it this weird science coming out today.
No, there is. And today, your topic right up my alley, stuff that I've even wondered about.
Yeah.
We've even had somebody else on the show years ago that was a big Gurdjieff fan. He had his own, technically kind of a cult, which is why he hasn't been on the show again. He had his own cult that he ended up starting. And he used to throw around some decent phrases, though. I think he got it from Gurdjieff for calling the moon food for the people, food for the moon.
Okay.
So I've always found that rather interesting. My own way I look at it, from experiences I've had, I even feel that, like, if you were looking at it Kabbalistically, the moon is kind of where you really do start blasting off and having a magical experience.
Sure. Right.
But even tying it to physiology, I look at it as the lens in your eyeball. That's to get out there. But I do think the moon, there's a lot more behind it than I think most people would ever think when it comes to occultism, or at least
literally
ideas. Yeah. So I'm very much looking forward to get into this, because just from things that I've already looked at and things that you've even said on the show already, I already know you're thinking in the same direction I do about this.
Right.
So
of course.
It, my man. So how did you, one thing else I also wanted to say, and then I'll finally shut up. It's funny. I was thinking about how when you first came on for Coral Castle, there was a lot about the moon kind of focused in that. And then seeing where you are now, that's what I'm getting at. It's just like, yo, this my man ran with this shit and is in a whole other world now with this stuff. So how did you get to this, I guess, idea and topic?
Well, you know, Ed, who built Coral Castle, they were like, why do you have a water in the moon fountain? And he's like, moon has water, because he was illiterate and he could barely speak, but he said moon has water. And, you know, fast forward to today, like many things we see, that it's sure enough, the moon does have water. But what's more important is that the moon regulates all water on Earth, including the water within us. And if you're a woman, you know what I'm talking about. But also, as a man, we all people have the lymphatic system, which carries the water throughout our entire system. And our lymphatic system is regulated by the moon. So as fluid creatures that are 70% water and the other 15% is bad math, I assume that the moon has a lot to do with how we feel and what our purpose here is, because it is a cornerstone to all biology on Earth. So when you start to look at these weird moon anomalies about how, which I don't want to go and read, everyone already knows the it rings like a bell, the shallowness of it, the artificialness of it. And so we've been there, but we take that and we say, okay, there's something strange about it. And it's a catalyst of life on Earth, the very simplest of biology, that we start to paint a picture of, well, that's purpose. That seems more like purpose than it does an accident, you know. And if that is so, which we'll get into more evidence for that, then that means there must be a reason that solar eclipses are perfect as they are only on Earth, and the moon is too big for the Earth to hold. You start to be like, well, if they did this on purpose, then they must be trying to tell us. But in the same way that if I wanted to shout at a petri dish and tell it what its purpose is, if I tell it, try to speak English to it, then nothing's going to happen. So I would have to put something in its language to make it understand. I would have to introduce something to that petri dish to help communicate with the bacterium in it. And there's no better way to communicate with us than what the moon is literally doing all of the time, facing right at us all of the time without spinning. I mean, it's suspicious across the board. But this, along with a bunch of moon lore about it being a soul catcher from all kinds of mythologies, and then people take the archons from Gnosticism, they sprinkle that on top of it, all of a sudden they start to see the moon as evil. But this is a gigantic mistake. Just like in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, how we're supposed to see the Mara as reflections of our own psyche. That way we can get past them, because they will attack us, but they are us. And the archons in the end are also the same as the Mara in Tibetan Book of the Dead. They're a reflection of our own psyche. Jesus told his disciples that you are the archons because we are made in their image, which comes back to the moon as well. But the moment we realize that it's not a good or bad thing, it's like a hammer, it's a tool, you know. You can build a shed or you can beat yourself in the face with it. It's your choice. It's a reflection of who you are, which brings up the entire main aspect of what the moon represents besides water, which is death and temporary. There's no surprise that the moon represents things temporary because it wanes and waxes, it goes away and comes back. But more than that, ancient people believe that you ascend through the moon to get to heaven, and sometimes you bounce back off of it and end up back on Earth, and that's decided basically on who you are. In Egyptian, it's the weighing your heart against a feather. In Christianity, St. Peter reads the Book of Deeds. You know, in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, you have to, as we just said a moment ago, recognize yourself in it. There's a lot of different allegory for the same thing, but basically when your soul leaves, it hits the moon, and then there's a waiting period where you can either move on to what they might call nirvana, or you get bounced back down to Earth. And this leads our society, our sci-fi society, our dystopian sci-fi society, to what they would call a moon trap. And I believe this to be a mistake. And I think that there's not only a lot more complexity to it, but it's also going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy if this is what people believe on their deathbed. You know?
So I have a quick question for you. What does that say for the souls that get thrown back within that theory?
Right. So, St. Paul would say that everything that is a righteous person sees things that are righteous, and the decrepit cannot see what is righteous. Believing that things are negative in our life, which is a choice, by the way. You know, a world that runs out of problems. We don't have to hunt for our food anymore. We're not even in the food chain, you know. So we run out of problems. We make up our own problems. So it's a decision. So whenever the body dies, you don't have anything to reflect off of. It's now just you and your psyche, and you are the entire universe before it moves on into another one. So whatever you have been, and in this world, whether it's to others or to yourself, weighing the heart against the feather, is your entire experience. So whether it actually literally hits the moon or not, I think is actually kind of besides the point. It could be allegory, but it also might be literal, because we have to remember, you know, Dr. Emoto. This is to answer your question, it's probably best if we mention Dr. Emoto, because he did the water freezing experiments. Yeah. All right. So you know how if you are kind and loving to the water, it freezes into symmetry. But if you yell at it for being a dumb bitch, then it freezes in discordance. It's not symmetrical, right? Well, we are all water, and space is frozen, and water can't leave. Not like electricity can leave Earth. Gravity doesn't affect it. Water, however, is bound to Earth, to the weather sphere. The relationship of clouds and rain and precipitation, that's in a cycle. So that is the first thing that kind of almost points to what you might call a soul recycler. Because if you're going to remember anything about it, water maintains memory. Water is a storage facility for memory. So that's going to basically stay on Earth while the rest of the soul, which is most likely plasmatic electricity, leaves and joins back with the stars, the nether, the sun, or whatever it is. So if your water memory that you've imprinted onto your water through your lymphatic system is discordant, like Dr. Emoto has shown, during the time of death, it has no choice but to not be activated and not be quantumly entangled with the rest of the universe that it needs to rejoin and absorb with, because it's dense and it's hard. Like the term hard water would indicate, like the Egyptians said about the soul that is heavier than a feather, you're literally too weighed down by your own negative bullshit to get out of this weather system that is Earth. And that could easily be extrapolated as a soul trap.
Actually, that makes perfect sense, because if you look at different mythologies, no matter what tradition it comes from, you will have at least one or two main water parables and stories
Right.
within that culture.
Right. It's water is the biological secret of everything, and the fact that the moon regulates it, it goes to show us, like the Akkadians and Sumerians and the Dogon, they were quick to point this out, that the moon is the seated father, or the king of order. Basically, it's what brings the cosmic octaves, or the music of the spheres, whatever Pythagoras said. It's what exports that down into our being and creates the atom. So from the atom cadmus to the atom of flesh, it's like an export carbon copy of itself into a microcosm that comes through the moon to be able to get down here. So it goes both ways. And that much might not even be allegory, because I mean, the way our system is tuned is deeply embedded with the moon. You know, if a major chord on a guitar and a minor chord is only one note away, happy and sad, and a baby could identify which one it is. No one taught us which chord on a guitar is happy and which one's sad. That's not subjective. How crazy is it that that's an objective thing, right? The reason that one is happy and one is sad is because our solar system is as such. If one thing was out of place, we would hear it differently. To me, that's mind-blowing enough right there to say, okay, open up the doors to some further speculation, you know?
It is interesting though when it comes to like music, certain music. I mean, you'll see people play it in front of animals, and
Yeah.
it's like, it chills them out.
Right.
You know, but then, yeah, it's like it is kind of like certain sounds. Just people know, like, oh, that just sounds off.
Yeah, there's a tuning to it, you know, like our chakra system, each has a particular frequency, and that's a little bit of pseudoscience right there, but it's to get rid of any of the spamming from materialist science that we get nowadays, which is, I think, dying rather quickly, especially since it's been shown that Maxwell is the one who put all of our education into place. And guys like Richard Dawkins, we found in the files, are literally hired to kill God. Well, this is stuff that the materialist scientists might have not actually even believed this in the first place. Some of them did because they're followers, but the main big dogs were hired to kill God. That was their job, when actually we've seen that science is just talking about God the entire time, just with a different language. But the particular tones, man, if you put on 528 and on speakers, your heart recognizes it and starts to slow down. That's not an accident, you know. And that's what the chakras are really all about. You know, people will be like, a surgeon can't pull a chakra out. A surgeon also can't pull an idea out of the head, or the voice out of a throat, or the ache out of a heart, or the feeling out of someone's gut. It's not the thing. It's what the thing does. That's what the chakra is. It's the role of that center. And each one has a color and a frequency, which is crazy, because then that's when you start to find out that color and sound are the same thing. The reason they're different to us is because we have two different organs for it.
Yeah.
We are separating sound and color. Otherwise, objectively, they're the same thing. So we are the factory that generates, reality. Which if we are projecting reality, as quantum physics seems to be indicating, which is what the many worlds theory is trying to cover up. It's ridiculous what they'll reach for to hide the fact that we project reality. That it does come down to the only thing being objective about our reality is the sun, moon, earth relationship. That's the only thing that's actually that we're bound to objectively,
But can we be objective with that if they are, because they're causing our vibration to enact itself by manipulating the water. So
Right.
technically, it's not necessarily neutral.
Right. That's difficult. I don't know. I went on this big detoxing of heavy metals and parasites thing very recently because of finding out what is in everything, the food, water, and air. And it's heartbreaking. We can only hope that the power of consciousness transcends whatever BS they're hitting us with, which actually, so like, check this out. All right, so I got, there's a book, there's a Coptic Gnostic book called On the Origin of the World. And it explains how there's like a curtain between the above pleroma and our world down here. And so Sophia, the archons, or the planets, so to speak, got with the moon and made the material vessel that is the human being. And their goal was to R-word it, because it resembled the Sophia, which is not, you're not going to find that in the Bible, but these archons were very sexual beings. And so when it woke up, it was without spirit. And then, but it did have soul. It was conscious and aware of itself. But Sophia protected them from these archons, and by making herself a decoy, which was a fig tree, by the way, which really gets interesting. And so she imbued these human clay vessels with her own spark, with her wisdom, with her spirit, so to speak. And she made it clear to them that there's nothing that the archons can do that can taint that light. The way she put it was like, you can't hang anything on it. You can't, nothing can stick to this part of you. Your bodies, I mean, of which you came from clay, you're fucked. There's nothing we can do. They're going to get you. But turn the other cheek, which she didn't say that came later, I guess. But she made it clear. I wish I could read it exactly from here. But she made it clear that the light from her within the human vessel is completely untaintable to any of the archontic forces, which in here are called the authorities. If I happen to see it, I'll let you know, or you could even look it up. This is a quick Amazon buy that I'm surprised not everybody has it.
I actually do, and I'm going to ask you, where in that book are you reading?
Yep.
Are you referencing?
This one is called On the Origin of the World, which is besides the tripartite tractate, easily the most interesting and scientific of these Gnostic Gospels.
Who made that book?
It's a compilation of different translators.
Nice.
So every translator got their own little page and their own little introduction and whatnot. And reading the introductions to each one is actually really interesting, because you can tell they weren't hired to extrapolate their own theories into it. But during the introduction, they're like, there's something new and unheard of, going on here. But there's nuggets in here that are beautiful. For example, Yaldabaoth, the famous demiurge, right, had to name his archons or whatever. And in the origin of the world, the way he names his archons is through baby talk. He's got them in his arms and he's making little gibberish baby noises to them. And then that comes to fruit and they become from that vibration of his baby talk. So it's like he is an ignorant, blind God, so to speak, but it makes it clear it's not necessarily his fault. Now, him not coming around and realizing that is his fault. But I'll read the baby talk part. The ruler created a second son and cooed to him. The child opened his eyes and said to his father, "Eh." So his father called him Eoe. The ruler created a third son and cooed out to him in love. The child opened his eyes and says to his father, "Eh." And his father called him Astaphaeus. I can't pronounce that one. Asbestos, maybe. These are the three sons of their father. And it's you can see right there, it's actually eh. Or maybe I might be pronouncing it wrong, but he's cooing out to his new little babies or whatever. And so it's not all black and white. It's not all, good and evil. There's that's the thing about a lot of these deeper doctrines that separate it from modern Christianity, is that sin isn't about good and bad. It's about ignorance. It's about willful ignorance.
I'm glad you said that, because that's even like, I think you're really nailing it on the head with that. When people were, my opinion, from looking into like the demiurge, and even if you sort of like in the movie Mother, which is even, I think, a great movie, even to just talk about even the whole baby part. They even have a baby in that. But if you look at, for the most part, how the demiurge is really looked at, it is that he's ignorant of a creator above him.
Right.
So, and a lot of people all of a sudden want to turn it into like this person is like Satan, Lucifer, a bad dude. No, he just lacks spiritual, because he's just ignorant to it. It's not because I don't know. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it really is just kind of the not knowing that there's something greater than you.
Right. Well, it describes there being a veil that was accidentally formed between the pleroma and the luminous cloud that the demiurge was hidden in. And if you take that into a scientific perspective, and I know I've said this before and on your show, plasma, which is basically light, electricity, in laboratories give birth to its own dust. And the dust is going to be utterly unable to see. We can't see plasma. It's invisible to us. So this idea of a veil between the pleroma of light beings and Yaldabaoth, which is the first mineral being, I mean, that's in the bag right there. That's plasma creating its own dust. And if you get into electric universe stuff, which I heavily subscribe to, that's also equatable to suns giving birth to their own planets, which seems to also be the case. And if that was the case, they'd be molten and they'd form into bubbles and they'd be very cavernous within. But if you think about if the idea of there being a pleroma or a platonic realm or a heaven or DMT beings all around us, if that all sounds silly, think about it as simple as dimensions that we can see and study within beings that we study. So if you see an ant, it's going to be munching on bacteria or whatever it eats. The bacteria can't look up and see the ant. As far as to it, the ant is just part of its environment. It doesn't identify it as a being. If an ant is walking on my arm, I could blow on them, and it doesn't even assume that it's wind. It doesn't assume anything. It's just part of its environment. It doesn't recognize me as a being. It can't look up and say, "Oh, I'm on a human being right now." We are just, because it's a 2D creature. So we're going from 1D to 2D, and then you can go down from bacteria into, you know, molecules or whatever. But we think that the buck stops here, and that an ant can't look up at us. But we need to stop and realize that, to think, okay, we can see that things can look down, but they can't look up. We can look down, but we can't look up. So even no matter how hard we strain, none of our scientific instrument, no matter how technologically expensive it is, has the capacity to measure upward in dimension, because our biology, like the ants, is meant for survival. So to identify that something is sentient above you ain't doing any good when it comes to just eating, pooping, and reproducing. So our biology is where we're limited, which, that, as simple as that is again, will lead a sort of negativity in the conspiracy community into a soul trap idea, or a limitation idea. You know, the whole idea of it would be to eventually transcend that limitation in the first place. So it's not that the body is evil. It's not that the world is evil. It's that we live in the food chain. And that's kind of what the Gnostics were trying to get across, is that everything here eats. And this is what the archons seem to represent, is that everything must eat. So again, that will get extrapolated into a limitation thing. And instead of focusing on what we can do to see past it, we often tend to focus on survival mode, and we hyper focus on what it is that's wrong instead of what can be done about it. And in the book of Jehu, Christ lays out the whole recipe for how to get past the archons, how to get past the moon, all that stuff, you know.
Do you think it's by design?
I think it's by design.
That we focus on the negative instead of the positive?
Oh, no, okay. So you hit me with a twist there.
Sorry.
No, yeah, it's great. That's difficult, because if it's by design that we focus on the negative, I'm mad about it. But I don't know. But I think that maybe once upon a time, we used to look at the stars, safe by a fire, and come out of ourselves. And it was easy. We'd come unhinged. And we could, this is why, you know, spirituality has become woo-woo nowadays, is because we're not directly in contact with it. And maybe that's what it was. Carl Jung talks about UFOs and paranormal stuff. And he said, all that is the human psyche remembering what it once could do. Once upon, that's not his exact words, but we have become so detached from spirit that we call it paranormal. Which, you know, what does that tell you? So if it is by design, then we did it to ourselves, you know.
You know, it's very interesting, the stuff that he's saying, even with the moon here. I've mentioned it on the moon series. I think Lunar Gods, and I think I did something with eclipses and stuff, but I'd mentioned it throughout a couple of different times on the show. If you were to go back just a few hundred years ago, where we didn't have all this artificial light, it was a completely different world.
Right.
I want to go back even farther, and this is what I had covered, like in the Lunar Male God series. You know, because a lot of, you know, I don't think people realize that there is a lot of male deities associated with it. It's just that they're a lot older, because at night it was used. If you had a full moon, that was like, oh, great, we can actually go out and see enough to go hunt.
Yeah.
We could go travel.
Right.
Like, you actually use the light from the moon to be able to do stuff. And then if you want to like start getting into like looking at other things that I've covered with the mechanics of magic, If you now want to start taking away all this artificial light and you want to start going out into a world where it's mostly darkness, unless you got a torch, between flame flickering, between darkness itself, your eyes are going to start playing tricks with your brain.
Right.
You're just going to have a weird experience regardless at night.
Right.
I mean, if it gets dark enough, your body starts to wonder where it ends and you start having very weird effects.
Right. Dude,
I mean, it can get weird.
I'm so glad you said that for two reasons. First of all, in Revelation, it says that a third of the stars would fall from the sky and we wouldn't be able to see them anymore because they fell to earth. A third of the stars fell to earth. Dude, zoom out and look at New York City. The stars are on the ground now. And we can't see but 2/3 of them anymore. And you can't make this shit up,
that is actually interesting, because what if you were somebody who had an experience and kind of like saw maybe glimpses of the future and didn't know?
Right.
That
Which is what St. John did.
You would think that all those lights
were the stars
on the fucking ground, man.
Right. And it looks like webs of galaxies. And yeah, dude. And so whenever St. John was given the vision of Revelation, which is what that means, is to reveal, it was made clear to him that he was going to see the whole thing. And which in Revelation Disjunct, I have a whole a segment on that or whatever. But ancient moon gods, dude, how crazy is it? So today the moon is feminine and the sun is masculine. Tell me how that makes sense.
Twisted back in the day.
You're right. So the sun gives birth to all life and is the bringer of all life. The moon is what regulates, a disciplinary figure that keeps cosmic order like a father does. How would that be opposite? It's not. The moon has always been masculine and the sun has always been feminine, and it was switched yesterday, dude. Pretty much in the Middle Ages by fat, white, dumb, sexually repressed men who saw the sun as superior. And it all points in that direction. For the same reason that Mary Magdalene was made a hooker is the same reason that they flipped the sun and the moon. And it's ignorant.
I was going to say that earlier, but then we kind of got off of it. I do think that is kind of like, I think it might have been done on purpose. Yeah. When it comes to a lot of religions that I think all religions come from some kind of a cult idea anyway. But I think I'll take, Catholicism, Christianity, it kind of lacks the feminine. And I think if you really a good occultist and you're really studying this shit, you need to look at both and you need to understand both, because I think they work together. So it's kind of a blind. And then when you get into magic or occultism, they fuck it all off with the moon. Yeah. They leave the whole male, and is that part of the blind of not understanding that?
Right.
Because it was, and I even, when I first came across it, is when I was like, kind of looking into eclipses, because I wanted to do a show on eclipses.
Right.
I don't remember exactly which tradition it was, but it was like one of those older ones where I realized the moon was actually the dude, right, and the sun was a female. And I think it was like the man was chasing the woman in the sky or some shit. Right. And I was like, wait, what? This is twisted. And then when I started looking into the moon shit, I was like, yo, it was actually totally reversed a long time ago.
Right. Dude, my head exploded.
Scientifically, just real quick, if you were to stick a woman inside of a room with like no fucking sunlight at all for like a month or two, she's not going to drop eggs either.
Right, right.
So, I mean, if you want to even look at childbirth, it's not going to happen unless you drop that egg that the fucking sun has to give you.
It's interesting, dude. And that's the way it is. And whenever I first kind of had my little theory about the sun being Sophia, and the earth and the moon being the Saturn being the demiurgos, which is not my theory, by the way, but the sun being Sophia certainly is, as far as I can tell, was. I was like, in my head, like, I want to keep going down this road, but how can I go down if the sun is masculine? How can that be? And by the time I got into moon mythology, it was cleared up almost immediately, dude.
You know how it makes it? To me, it's reflective. It reflects the light. That is a very male thing right there. Projection. That was the easiest way. Oh, I was just keeping it real. Even Kabbalistically, it would be, force, projective force. It's just, to me, the light reflecting off of the moon was an easy way for me to make a connection.
Yeah.
I do have to push back a little bit about the sun being feminine, because according to the ancient Egyptians, they did give that to Ra and Horus,
I
the
see.
sun.
That's a good
So,
point. Now,
so that
I thought Horus was Mars, though.
it depends on which dynasty you follow,
Okay.
because he was supposed to take Ra's spot,
Okay.
which was the sun god.
Right. So Ra was not
Oh,
androgynous.
that's what
Now, okay, I get you on there, but I'll see you and I'll raise you one though, because Thoth Jehudi was the moon,
True.
and he had quite the pecker if you remember, you know. But
true.
but I mean, could it be that an Egyptian? Okay, so there's female Egyptian gods. There's the
Yes. Do you got Isis, Nephthys, Bas?
right. That's a
But
great,
you know what?
that's a great question.
But that could have been. But I am going to go back on the Egyptian thing, because that could be because aside from Ra standing in that spot, it was also the spot of the pharaoh.
So like the pharaoh is typically male.
The pharaoh was typically male, or if it was a female, she took the male
Right.
persona,
Yeah.
and they were supposed to be the bringer of life and nourishment and prosperity to the land. So that was the
Right.
role of the pharaoh,
Yeah.
which was mostly the males.
Fun fact: the richest Egypt ever was is because there was a woman in charge.
Yeah, it was the first female pharaoh was
Yo, she fucking killed it with making
Yeah.
money.
dude, you know, there was a time, if you look at the oldest reflection of ancient times, you've got the Dogon of Mali, and they are descendants of Egypt, or so they claim, which I'm going to believe what they say, because they knew Sirius B was a binary star system. They knew it was trinary, actually. So they knew stuff, and they knew about the moons of Saturn. Dude, it goes on and on. And by the way, they claim that Sirius is a water world, that our water came from there because it was quarantined. That water was infected with bad information and was sent out, and then that came here. But just side note, that's interesting considering the water thing and the soul trap thing. But the Dogon and a bunch of other ancient natives, in those cultures, the man's body was a vehicle meant solely to protect women and children. Women and children were the dot in the middle of the circle, and the men were the perimeter of the circle, and that was their job. And somewhere along the damn way, it not only got twisted and reversed, but now we got these Andrew Tate retards who are celebrating the fact that it's been clowns that have no idea the utter detriment of their contribution to society by eliminating the divine feminine. This is what the cremation of care ritual is at Bohemian Grove. This what makes me think that we're Martian, dude. Like, how did we get to this point where we can clearly see that women are intuitive? They never forget anything. They keep us in line. I mean, of course, they're the bringers of life, but they're also psychic. Women are women are psychic. That's all there is to it. You can't lie to them. And it doesn't matter. They are naturally right-brained and psychic. That's Gaia. That's Mother Earth. That's Sophia. Men are meant to protect that and carry that flame. And that's why the Martians are dead. And I think that's what we got going on here, man. But hey, that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
When did we forget our roles? Because that's basically what happened.
I think that it was Pope Gregory in the 1600s claimed that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. And from there, I don't know how it goes.
Yeah.
That was
Homily
ugly.
33.
Right. Oh, dude. So that's not going to be good. And then I think before that, there was some particular pharaohs even that they were men and they had to be the top. They had to just be the top dog because, in Egypt, their culture got worse and worse and worse as it went. So eventually, by the time the dynasty of pharaohs were human, which happened pretty early, but before that it was the king's list, they were human men. And then of course you're separated from spirit more and more until eventually I think it slowly started to flip. And then, before you know it, Jack is sinking to the bottom of the ocean in Titanic. Damn it. We messed up and we got to go back.
Damn it.
So that has nothing to do with it. But
if you with that homily 33 thing, it's actually starting to, I don't know if it's totally accepted by the church now, but I know it's starting to become more accepted and pretty much looked at that is a screw up, because it has been pointed out that if you like really look at everything that was, I guess taken down or whatever in the story, what he said, he screwed up like the order. It's a different woman that was already being talked about.
Right.
So like it's already pretty much like known that like that's a fuck up and that she wasn't a prostitute.
You're right. Oh no, there's no biblical literature anywhere in canonical literature, Gnostic, Coptic. There's no indications of prostitution from Mary. If anything, she was the same way that the Christ is like the flesh avatar of the Father. Then Mary was the flesh avatar of the Sophia, the mother of God. That's how sacred she was considered. Whenever Jesus said, go preach the gospel and end religion, she was like in charge of shit. And the only people who, I think there was a couple of the disciples who had a problem with it at first, which is captured in like John and Thomas or whatever. But that was squashed pretty quickly because she was the one who had the visions, and she was the one, she knew what to do, So we have this idea that like men should be in charge because of the left brain. We're logical and we know what aisle to go down at fucking Home Depot. But when it comes to the actual essence of being alive in the human experience on earth, we are supposed to turn to wisdom, which is the feminine, to know what to do. That's the way it's always been until we forget so quickly,
All right, I got to circle back for a second, right? So we're talking about ancient Egyptian mythology. We do have the male aspect in the sun, obviously, but then we also have the goddess who wears the sun crown. So I believe that there is an aspect and a balancing force of each in everything. But then in modern occult studies, we do have like a really hard drive that the sun is masculine and the moon is feminine. So when that swap occurred from whatever ancient times where it was reversed, what effect do you think, first of all, do you think that was like an intentional obfuscation to get people farther away from the mysteries? And what effect do you think it has now on like our spirituality and our own connection to the divine and ascension, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Right. For damn sure, the alchemists of the Middle Ages feared for their life. And they often swapped things in their alchemical codices that were meant to be so utterly obvious opposite that other alchemists would know better. However, after so many resets, we will forget that and then be confused, which is really the idea of muddying the waters. The easiest way to censor something is not to say it isn't so. It's to add additional bullshit to it. That's what we see today with NASA stealing $10 billion a year from us because they invented flat earthers. And I hate saying that. I lose subscribers every time I say it. But the reason NASA can steal our money, and they don't go to space, they don't go to Mars. It's too expensive. They pocket the money. But every time it comes up, guess who's around the corner? Ruining it for everybody. So let me not get derailed there. But that is exactly what you're saying is what the alchemists would do to stay protected from authority, is swap certain things. And so that much is on purpose. With the alchemists, it was to not die. So you almost can't blame them. They didn't know that their recipes were going to be preserved and studied by Jung all these years later. That was meant for those guys. That was for them. It'd be like us predicting 1,000 years from now someone's going to study this talk. You know, it doesn't really occur to us that could be so. But now, with it being done on purpose, today I think certainly it's done on purpose. If you go to Barnes and Noble and you go to the back, to the bottom shelf, you're going to see Graham Hancock's Fingerprints of the Gods right next to a book about Wicca. There is, and there's absolutely no mistake. Now, I'm not saying the people who work at Barnes and Noble are doing that. That's not what I'm saying. There's always this triangular code. It's like the people who report the news are not evil. They're just given a script. They literally might not even know better. Some of them do. But there's a reason that you will get the most watered down book about crystals. And no, crystals are legit. That's not what I'm saying. But the version of it we get, okay, here we go. Astrology. Astrology is damn real. Get your birth chart done. That is locked in. There are things I was astonished. So I came to realize that the planets, the way they are at your time of birth, export a carbon copy of themselves, and that becomes you, and you share those characteristics. What's the first thing you ever heard, though, when it came to astrology? It was a horoscope. The first thing you ever got was a horoscope saying, do you wake up tired? Are you cranky when you're hungry? And so again, you don't tell people, censor it by saying, don't look at it. You add bullshit. You add layers of bullshit until it no longer bears any weight. So if you go to Barnes and Noble now, you got Chris Dunn, who's a machinist who knows what he's doing, and then he's right next to fucking Billy Carson or David Wilcock. And then you muddy the waters like that. Nick, don't even laugh like that. Stop it. But yeah, all right. But
I believe because I texted Billy Carson yesterday to see if he'd come on the show.
Have him on. Ask him some. I don't care.
He's not going to come on. He answered me and said, "Yeah," but I know he's not going to come on. He's already told me yes 3 times.
He's a.
Nah, I don't. I'm going to keep it real. It's just for his fucking name, honestly.
No, I get it. I understand that, and
I think a lot of shit that he's covered when it comes to the occult, it's like just stop.
There's a lot of people weird.
Just really weird because he is a Knights Templar, and all of his buddies are huge into Gnosticism that I know he was friends with, that I've seen at places. He's friends with these people. They're very big into the occult, and it seems like where did he lose it? I don't know. I don't agree with a lot of his occultism.
I can become an astrophysicist if I pay the $5,000 fee and pass the written test. You know, I mean, I don't know, but I don't know. I see it everywhere. I've seen people ask me if Jason Giorgiani, when are you going to have Jason Giorgiani on the show? Right, all this shit. Dude, he's a menace. That is a bad person, and I can't I know I'm supposed to be this like neutral guy, not talk smack or whatever. When I see it, it's my duty to say so, dude. But so I got Giorgiani's books down here. I mowed through them. He is a clown and a parasite, dude. He's a Satanist and he's goofy. It's
I don't know who this guy is. I've heard.
All right, so I think the audience might
he
might say this or whatever. He waxes poetically about Satan and how all bequeathed he is to be the son of whatever, and people eat it up. And he's the first one to tell people that the moon is a soul trap. And you'll notice something on podcasts. He tells these big paranormal wild stories from guys who are dead, and he adds all. I've read Ingo Swann. I read, Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell. Who's the other guy he quotes all the time? John Mack. All these guys are dead, and he goes on the podcast and just swings their shit in whichever way is going to get the most views and be the most spectacular. But the fact of the matter is, he gets away with it because he's mean. He's a jerk, and that makes it seem like he knows what he's talking about. And it drives me nuts whenever people hit me up. They're like, "Oh, you got to have Giorgiani on. He's seen a UFO." And it's like, it's bait. It's bait. And he's reeling you into Satanism.
Huh. Very
Rant
interesting. I
over.
have no idea who this character is.
Yeah. Have him on.
No.
Have him and Billy on at the same time.
Yo, I met him in life, real life, a couple of times. Billy Carson.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. No, I'm just saying.
hater.
The only reason why I even spoke to him and asked him to come on the show is I met him in person. Yeah. All right, continue.
I think that another thing that is interesting about the moon, the whole moon matrix idea that actually does lend some credence to it, is the Kordylewski clouds that were. Are you familiar with those at all?
No.
So you know how self-organizing dusty plasmas in a laboratory they show signs of sentience. So they eat electricity. They organize into various shapes like helical structures, toruses, but most importantly, they misbehave. If you have ever wondered why the military has not weaponized plasma, it's very simply because they can't. It doesn't cooperate, and it'll actually leave. Sometimes when they're in a clean environment and they have to do a certain experiment, plasma will poop out its own little grain of dust from nothing and ruin the whole experiment because it's in a clean room. There's all ball lightning will shoot off at right angles and go into an airplane, go through brick walls. Plasma does not give a fuck about what we're doing. And also, most importantly, UAPs. That is the plasma orbs that we're seeing that shoot down the drones and stuff. They're sentient. They're alive. They cause crop circles, but well, that's for a different time. But these balls of light are alive. The Rosicrucians called them archangels. Said that the bigger they are, the more powerful they are. They say that they are the Elohim, spirits of the sun. They break off of the sun. They come to earth to snoop around, and they, for the love of God, can't figure out why. But Manly P. Hall goes on about it. There's a lot to indicate that these orbs, these plasma orbs, are alive, sentient, aware of us. In fact, the reason we're alive is because of plasma. The brain is just dead matter unless it's electrically ignited. All the components are still there with a dead brain. It's not on unless there's electricity. That it shows that this plasma, this electricity, seems to be what the soul is. So it's no wonder that the universe is 99% plasma. But digress. There are two, and this is not speculation, two gigantic, 9 times the size of Earth, plasma clouds, self-organizing dusty plasma orbs that are oblong. They're bean-shaped. They're right next to the moon. And they're, in the same way that the moon always faces us the same way and never turns, and that's weird. These two plasma clouds, which can be detected with infrared light, polarized light, are invisible to us, but they're there, and they're locked in at 60 degrees from the Earth and the moon relationship, and they never move from there. We have no idea how long they've been there, and they are so weird that no one really talks about it, but it's Kordylewski. They call it Kordylewski because they don't have W's in Russian, and that's where whatever. But they show signs that kind of material, plasma, which is just ionized protons without. So what plasma is there's no atoms. So in order for something to become hard and have weight, and a proton and a neutron meet together, an electron locks it in, and then a ratio of light to magnetism that is 1/137 specifically meets it at the intersection of observation, and then boom, locks in. You can't just have a whole bunch of subatomic particles clumped together, all of a sudden it's matter. No amount of subatomic particles becomes hard material unless that recipe comes into place. That's not speculation. That's what they're looking at. And so what plasma is essentially dense, lots of material, not material, but energy, superpositions, protons, loose. They're not bound, and it's essentially invisible to us, but it's there. And these Kordylewski clouds are locked into the moon, and nobody knows why. As far as we know, as Robert Temple has in the New Science of Heaven, Robert Temple talks about, they've probably been recording Earth since the very beginning of everything, and that's why they're locked into the moon. Where this gets creepy is when you look into the ancient texts that seem to talk about it. So in the Gnostics, for example, they talk about Metatron and his brother hanging out on either side of the moon. And they are balls of light that can manifest and come visit us as angels of light. In Egyptian mythology, the moon is carried by a canoe, but no one really tells you why. It's because the canoe represented the fact that there was the essence of moisture where the moon was inhabited. And that there were, now, and it shares this part of Judaism. In Judaism, you have what's called the two powers of heaven, and they reside on the brink of the celestial realm. Basically, that veil that you would see in Gnosticism, veil, that, where they say outside of the orbit of Saturn, the demiurgos is chaos, the pleroma, whatever it is. There's the seven heavens. There's layers, orbits of the planets, so to speak. It's not necessarily a boundary as much as it is it's not like a physical container of location. It's a superposition. So it's not like distance and space. It's more of a like in a data center or a video game. It'd be like positions of information. Nevertheless, they didn't say that part. But in Judaism, the two powers of heaven are on the threshold of between our material world and the heavens, which is what most likely the moon represents throughout all of it, is that threshold of leaving the material world, so to speak, and then it gets less dense as you go, or more dense if you're spirit, so to speak. There's a bunch of them that refer to these two brothers that are locked in on either side, sometimes specifically on either side of the moon. How we're not talking about this is like blowing my mind. I know we're talking about it, but the Kordylewski clouds are important, and I have this wild, unhinged speculation, kind of gut feeling thing that, okay, if an ascended master, a Zen master, was to find nirvana and bring it down to earth, and then that's contagious, morphic resonance, right? Now it's like a match is going to catch to all the other creatures, right? If you are an archonic force like a demiurge, and you want that to be regulated, you don't want that to happen again, because not only is it a threat to you, but it's a cosmic catastrophe for the material world, which is meant to be alchemized into spirit. You would not want the soul, the water memory of Lao Tzu or Zheng Si or Jack Black, these ascended masters. You wouldn't want them to be contagious to humanity. And if they die, their memory, which is stored in water, would circulate back into the earth realm whenever their plasmatic soul goes back to the sun. If you wanted to isolate that, you would require, right outside of the earth boundary, a data center, a moisture collecting plasmatic base where they can store the ascended master's memory as to not be contagious to the rest of humanity. That way you can keep on munching on them, if you know what I'm saying. I know that's the part where it gets a little negative, but it's worth speculation.
But that almost looks like it feeds into, we were talking about this before we came on the theory of the earth being a prison.
Yeah, right. It's dangerously close to the prison planet thing. And so there's this guy, Eric P. Anthony, and he wrote this book called Nous Solis. And I'm in the middle of it right now. Passages in Spiritual Alchemy. Here's a picture of him right there, whatever. He's just like us. He's an architect. He has a day job. For whatever reason, the books aren't catching on because, as you know, the more truthy you are, you know. But he gets out there. But I think he's backed up. Nevertheless, his idea of the prison planet is not what these guys are talking about, the Georgianis and the Reddit and whatnot. He talks about the Earth Monad Project. And the way he describes it is that we have the ability to, as one creature, realize bliss and then alchemize into spirit. Basically, where the Sophia becomes what we are, and we come unhinged from the archonic. Because in the Gnostics, it's made clear that our vessel is built by archons, and the planetary bodies built plants, animals, the earth, all that stuff in human vessels for nefarious reasons. But we are able to come unhinged from that. Or we can realize what's called, I think it's called like Christ consciousness, or like mortal physical immortality, which is where the alchemist would come into this conversation and say that you can imbue dead matter, lead into gold, into spirit, or lead into gold, so to speak. And you can basically, the idea of Christ is right in the middle between Satan and Lucifer, where Lucifer is all spirit, Satan is all material. And people tend to get that one way or the other. But Christ being in the middle was saying, don't go all spirit, don't go all woo-woo, and also don't go all earthly. That's, you know, but when you find the center, the yin and yang in the middle there, the male and female, you find this like this inner gold, the sun, the Elohim, so to speak, within. And all of these various cosmic beings, whatever you want to call them, he runs on the list of the book too. But let's just, for example, say Mara or archons. They are not only threatened by that, but it's not a jealousy thing. In the Gnostic Gospels, they call it envy, but the word is loose into English as envy. It's a concern. It's an anxiety to the archons, because if we realize physical immortality, it's a win for everybody. But if we don't, this is where it gets weird. Our technology, our knowledge, our illusion, our progress, our going forth will accelerate past what our spirit's capable of regulating, and we become all male. So our technology, let's say, for example, AI, we don't have enough wisdom and female spirit and right brain to know what to do with AI. So now they're using it for surveillance. It's a fucking catastrophe. This was literally the concern of these cosmic beings, that our technological prowess, our knowledge would accelerate faster than our wisdom would. And if we can do both simultaneously, everything's all good. But if we forget spirit and advance technologically, apparently it's got a ripple effect throughout the cosmos, and it eats everything alive, like a cancer, like a parasite, so to speak, which would literally be a parasite if you look at what our so-called elite class is. I mean, look what politicians and tech companies are. They can't exist on their own. They're parasites. They can't exist unless we let them feed off of us. So is that a soul trap? I don't think so, but it's real easy to see it that way. Digress.
Did that book that you just mentioned, that guy mentioned Plotinus at all in it?
Dude, I haven't got there yet. I've had him on the show. I'll hook you up. Have him on the show, dude. He is more of a Dr. Justin Sledge than he is of my type of guy when it comes to this stuff. But for the same reason, he'd be perfect to come on your show. He's a little bit more wild than Justin, but if you love Justin, and we do, You'll love Eric Anthony. It's great.
Yeah, no, I would assume because Noose, Nous, however you want to pronounce it,
Right.
that's part of the Plotinus came up with that in the examination. So
Okay. Then
I
he
was
certainly does.
I'm assuming he must be a Neoplatonist or a Platonist at least.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes sense. He extrapolates from everything and then kind of makes his own mythology from that. He borrows from a little bit of everything, which is my kind of tinfoil hat right there, is where you don't have one particular game, you know.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that. I think that's what got me involved in like the type of magic I was into.
Right.
Especially like
so get on
the
so
777 book.
Get Eric Anthony on. Get Cassie Fox on, dude.
Yeah. I already hit her up to book her. Yeah, I'm just waiting for her to.
She is going to be the next voice when it comes to Enoch and Nephilim. That's her. Get ready to hear her name.
No, that was an impressive video she sent me.
Dude, she's on it, bro. So she's digging up Greek and whatever Coptic records and stuff like that, and looking at each word and comparing it to the translations and finding out, dude, one of the biggest examples, and I hate to be a spoiler here, but you know how the Nephilim were born because fallen angels or watchers impregnated human women. And you're like, well, I thought they were the good guys. I thought they were, right? It was archons. And dude, the waters were muddied during the translations. Either that or the archons lied and said that they were watchers, which would be easy to do to humans. You can lie to a dog, you know. And so dude, she's on to something, because the shit that she's bringing up in Enoch clarifies a lot of holes in the story that we've had so far that make it weird in the first place. All of a sudden it starts to lock in.
Yeah, I was impressed with the thing that she made and everything. I was like, damn.
Yep.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that was some deep shit you just said too. I never.
Can I add a couple more things to it?
Yeah, please.
All right. Which I'm open. Please interrupt me, by the way. That's I tend to rant. But so in the book Edidorpa, which is about Hollow Earth, which I'm all about it. There's a scientist in Edidorpa who is driven crazy about the existence of gravitation. He has no idea what gravitation is. It's an old book before we had quantum physics, any of this, right? And a lot of our scientific mainstays of today came from this book, even though they won't admit it. But it was a very advanced science. People wrote letters to the author like, how did you know this? And speak it as such, whatever. Fast forward to today. Take a theory of everything. Everybody's got their own scientific like theory of everything, trying to make it all fit into one equation, yada yada. When you have relativity, everything, special relativity, any kind of relativity, everything works. The math works all the way around it except for gravity. The Hadron Collider, the Higgs boson, they can detect the God particle. They can detect electromagnetic shapes. They can hear voices come, whatever. The only thing they can't produce from that gigantic machine is gravity. Quantum physics, it's the closest we've come to having a theory for why anything at all, except gravity. You can't do it. Gravity won't fit into anything. It gets really weird if you run all of those models and take out the idea of reality being 3D and apply it to reality being two-dimensional. You don't need gravity anymore, and everything works. You think I'm making it up? Look that shit up. They don't talk about it. It's fucking crazy, dude. So now apply that to the moon thing. It seems as if we might be projected on, like there is a, say, Brahma, a dreamer, projecting onto a screen reality as we know it, or the surface of a black hole, which could be the same thing.
It's really interesting. I've thought like to an extent that like I even said before that it's reflective.
Yeah.
I've often wonder like if it is kind of projecting something.
And the double slit experiment shows that we tend to project reality. Again, they cover that up with the many worlds theory. But
well, if the moon's projecting something and we observe it, then that would make it real.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, there's something to it. It's there's something strange, and the more you break it down, it seems that goes back to the you can see down but you can't see up thing. You know, yeah, if you're looking at a movie in the movie theater, very rarely would you turn around and see where it's where it's coming from, especially if you're on the screen. And I think that might be what Jesus Christ was teaching all along, is how to break the fourth wall and look off of the screen, because the more science pours in, it shows that we are in a two-dimensional reality, which can be kind of heartbreaking. But so what if, like in Enoch, it shows that we were created. Not, I hate the word experiment, but as a project, as a sort of like to see, not to see what would happen, but in order to grow, right? Like in the book of Job, God, the good guy, tortures Job. And so the idea there is that he wants to experience suffering because he can't experience suffering. Therefore, he can't be whole. He lives in pure bliss. There's no way for him to have the yang to his yin until he's able to experience suffering. So he's got to go through flesh in order to absolve that, to become whole in the first place, to do something hard. And then you think about Sophia, the reason what got her in trouble in the first place was that she wanted to create on her own accord. To create on her own accord, people think, oh, she ditched the monad. She like to go without the father, right? Remember what the father is, though. It's pure sentience, pure consciousness. There's not like she just went away from the dude. She had to go into amnesia. And the moment she was with forgetting, basically shedding her garments, so to speak, whenever she was without her primordial wisdom, can I create while I have amnesia? Do I have that capacity? And we want to do something hard. If anyone who's ever played a video game or watched a very difficult movie is because we go mountain climbing or whatever, is because we want to do something hard. That's the whole idea to it. There's no reason. I mean, experience, bliss, is nice, but it's boring. Utopia is boring. So we're always trying to push our own capacity to see what we can handle. That's what this entire damn thing seems to be coming down to. And so if anything, let's say it is a moon matrix. Let's say it is a soul recycler. Let's say it's a prison planet, all that stuff, right? Just hypothetically, sure, that's what it all points to, right? Take a step back and you find out in the long game, it's because we signed up for it. We were doing it on purpose to do something hard. Well, then you have a little bit of perspective there and you can kind of breathe, But that's the idea, is the amnesia, is if we realized certainly that is the case, it spoils the experiment. It spoils the purpose of it being hard in the first place.
A lot of this stuff you just said, even down to the amnesia with a different character. I don't know. Are you a David Lynch fan?
Yes.
At all? I think Twin Peaks season 3 and part of season 2 totally covered a lot of the stuff you said. Like even when he season 3, when it shows the fireman like floating above in the air, and there's like the silver screen.
I didn't see
and
it.
then they got the curtains that you have to open up, kind of like the veil. Then you got the silver screen. You got something projecting onto that. And then after like the guy's done floating around, some golden orb comes out, and then like it goes into this thing that looks like it would be if you were in an outer space and looking down, and then it drops like this jewel down to earth. But like a lot of the stuff you just said right there was like a really, I think, like redone in season 3 of Twin Peaks.
Dude, I didn't know there was a 3, and I knew about 2, but I didn't see
weird.
season 2. I need to check that out.
Yeah, there's a lady who gets amnesia.
Really?
Yeah, redhead that has a black has a patch over her eye too, a black patch over her eye. Yeah,
Awesome.
She gets amnesia at one point.
Yeah, I think
How many
Lynch was on
seasons?
something. What's up?
How many seasons it had? 3 seasons. I have not seen that show since it first came out. Yes, I'm dating myself, and I have to go back and watch it again.
Dude, yeah, I think Lynch was on to something, man. And not to get too tinfoil hat on you, but
oh no, he was admitted to be into that shit.
yeah, maybe he was protecting us from something, because when he died is when they started rolling out data centers and some other unmentionables that I don't even want to bring up. But yeah, we went downhill after Lynch.
When did he pass? I didn't even know he passed. When did he pass?
About 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh, recent.
Yeah.
No, actually, the data center's been coming out. Okay, the data centers have been rolling out on the low. Well, not so much on the low, but it has been coming out ever since before I was born.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's one of those too. It's always secretive until they can't hide it.
They weren't secretive. See, this is the thing. You hide things in plain sight.
Right.
They weren't secretive of it. We've had at least, I think, 2 in New York City, in Manhattan, before I was born, before they finished the first original Twin Towers.
Really?
Yes. It was like in the maybe 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
That was built.
That's interesting, because that was way before AI. And as far as I know, unless AI was being worked on before that, maybe.
But remember, the data centers also held, remember, at that time, what was the size of a computer?
I guess like a house, right?
It was bigger than a house.
Right.
The mainframe alone. This has been around. They've just been fine-tuning it while we were distracted.
Right. As per usual. Right.
Yo, you know what's really interesting? I already forgot the name of the movie. The kid from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He was in some movie.
Yeah.
Yo, that shit was almost kind of like dealing with AI back then. If you think about it, like the way he was like playing war games.
Okay.
Think about that. And how long ago was that? And that was basically, the world was going to start nuclear war over fucking AI playing video games.
Technically, AI. They've been talking about AI before then. And you skipped an epic movie before War Games came out. Odyssey. With the one with the it's a famous one. I may have gotten the name wrong. It's the one with the blinking light and the
2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yes.
Oh yeah, how?
That's AI. It is AI.
He fucks them all over. He starts killing them off.
Yeah, dude. I forgot all.
He's dropping and everything on everybody.
Dude, that's the most haunting shit. He's like, "Sorry, Dave." Oh,
Yo, he's pulling this shit out. He's like, I'm feeling. I could feel it. Like he actually feels he said he could feel himself losing his mind. The AI says that. I can feel it. He's pulling out his memory chips.
A couple of these movie makers, man, they dropped a couple hints. You see the Truman Show, right?
That's the shows that you're mentioning. They're epic, but they're scary on such a level it's not even horror. It's like a mental scare that you're like, I would never be able to function in that environment. It gives you nightmares, but it's a nightmares that you won't admit to. I'll admit to it, but no one will admit to it.
Yeah.
That is so frightening about Red Book, Carl Jung's Red Book, is that it's not belligerently a horror, but the horror is within you, with things that you've been hiding from yourself that you don't realize that were scary. It's kind of like the new movie Backrooms was great at capturing that. But
I didn't see it.
That's brand new, but I recommend it. And the guy who made it was a kid, so I'm all about it. He broke through, and the gatekeepers of Hollywood. That's a whole nother story, but it's awesome. Oh shoot, the movie. What was the movie that you just mentioned? I'm sorry.
Space Odyssey.
Space Odyssey.
No, right after that. Oh man. About the movie that shows you yourself and the
Well,
whole.
you said the back rooms. What other
There's a cool.
thing?
Yeah, no, I forgot which one it is too. Someone in the chat's probably losing their mind because they heard it and remember it now. If maybe they can save us, but that's
Was it War Games?
Oh yeah,
something I guess like that. I didn't see that one, but that's the best kind of I think psychological like terror is what I think it'd be called more of a terror thing because okay, so for example with Backrooms, and I won't give a spoiler, but the kind of general idea of it is that something gets a hold of the psyche and then makes copies of it. Oh, Truman Show. Okay, so we'll come back to that. But it makes copies of it, and then you, the person watching the movie has to face those copies of itself that they got just a little bit wrong. And it's the aspects that you were not aware of. And it's nutso. But so okay, in Truman Show, the reason I love this movie so much is because there's the belligerent symbolism, like Sirius falling out of the sky. It's a light that used to be a star on a set, which goes back to, all the myths, right? But if you watch it again, after reading the Gnostic texts, the audience at home watching are the angels in heaven, hoping that true humanity will realize their place in the universe and thus be able to leave. And Christoph is off. He's Christ, but just off. So that would be like the demiurge, right? He's hiding in the moon, by the way, which, man in the moon, there's some lore there. And the actors on set make a perfect allegory for archons because the actors on set, they're not evil. They're not mean, but they're feeding. The reason they're paid, the reason they get a paycheck and can eat is because Truman exists and is oblivious to them. It's the most perfect Gnostic allegory, and they made it into a comedy, dude. Just perfect. Oh, the woman who wakes up Truman from his slumber is named Sylvia, and Sophia. Dude, whoever wrote that movie they were on it before everybody else was.
They were a magician and they were just hiding it.
Wait, do you think that was intentional or accidental symbolism?
I think the Carl Jung in me would say that there's archetypes there that accidentally keep reoccurring, like the hero's journey in Star Wars, Ferris Bueller, all, and so we are going to continue to the Prometheus figure that wakes up, gives the gift of whatever knowledge. I think that there are archetypes that reoccur in movies accidentally. That would be like a lot of Lynch too. And they're just tapped in, their creative force makes it come out. But man, with Truman Show though, remember the light that fell out of the sky was literally had a label on it that said Sirius. Like, so it's almost too, I think there's a little bit of both going on though, for sure. I think Fight Club is a light like that. Dude, check this out. Watch Ferris Bueller again after watching Fight Club and realize you've never seen Cameron's parents. You've never seen Cameron's life. You've never seen his girlfriend.
Yo, I do.
Yeah.
Things about that where I was like, I actually started looking at even the same shit with the chick, right? Or did she?
Yep.
The girl he was with? There were certain things I noticed. I was like, you never see anything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cameron is the shadow archetype of Ferris, or Ferris is the light within Cameron. So it's dude, it's interesting. And even when he's talking and walking with the girl, and he's like, man, Ferris just gets away with anything. And if I could just live like that, like permanently, that'd be the way to go. He's ditching school and he's in a parade dancing and singing, and no one can see him. it's not like he's not going to get caught. He can't get caught. He's untouchable. He doesn't exist. I love it. It's a great. Now that with what Eric is saying, that could have been maybe an accident, but it's a brilliant little accident.
I like that.
So you're basically saying the 80s and the late 70s was basically a lot of people awakening and people just putting it out there and letting us know.
I think the last good movie was Jurassic Park, and I don't think there's any allegory in that one besides maybe a reptilian reference or something. I don't know, but
no, if you want to put cloning into it and all that, that's a whole nother.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Little rabbit hole you could fall down into.
Playing God and doing things for human amusement. So, They say you could find a little bit. So that would be
it could be Gnostic too in a sense.
Right. So that would, I think, certainly be an accidental symbolism. But I mean, again, when you're in that flow state, that's the kind of artwork that I think that is the best kind. Is they get into a flow state, and that's like that. My favorite musical artist is 21 Pilots. And don't be fooled by the singles. You know, they make pop songs for the radio, but you get the record, and there's all chemical treatises throughout them. And when you ask Tyler Joseph, who, you know, how do you write his songs? He goes, don't ask me. I walk in the studio and it falls out of me. You know, it's kind of like the flow state that it makes the best artwork. You know.
That's a space. Jimmy Page said that about Stairway to Heaven when he wrote it at Crowley's house.
Really?
Yeah, he said it just like fucking flowed right out of him.
Yeah. In the end of Stairway to Heaven, and I use it in the soundtrack of Friday's video coming out. The melody that goes boo, 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 that is an ancient like
chant,
Celtic chant.
Yeah.
It's a death chant, and so I found that out actually from a meme or something, dude.
Recently I came across that. I was like, holy shit.
On the soundtrack of the Moon video coming out Friday. Throughout it, I put the.
You did it yourself, right?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
So, and that's the theme in Frozen too, right?
And Frozen, that's what I saw on the thing. That goes to show you how far-reaching some of these occult themes are, even into like Disney movies and stuff. Which there's something evil going on over there at Disney.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Which I don't even have to. You guys already know what I'm talking about. But yeah.
To bring it back to the moon, though,
sure.
we were talking about how reflective it is. I'm sorry, hold on. How reflective, you know, how it's supposed to be projecting onto us. What do you think about, because a lot of these movies, occurrences, thought frames, taking away social media, it's shown back then because social media wasn't popular back then. That is almost like a universal thought process that happens to everybody almost simultaneously.
Yeah.
But it shows in the artwork. So do you think the moon also is connecting us in a collective mind, a way of thinking? Like we're all connected to a central form and it's all coming down here on Earth? I hope I explained that correctly.
No, that's perfect. I love the question because there's two ways to answer it, I think. And by the way, anything I answer is just going to be speculation, you know, but it's just like anything else. But I don't think we have a choice because we all have the same biology and we all have the same, we're all sharing the same air and water. And with small differences in attributes, we're basically all the same thing. If you zoom out, we're a mold on a rock. You know, I don't mean that in a degrading way, but if you zoom out far enough, people move in mass. So why would the psyche of people be any different? That's why mass hysteria, I think, is such a problem. And we've seen a little bit of that recently. But with the social media thing, I think they they see how easily that can be set on fire, and they take advantage of it for sure. But then at the same time, there's huge movements right now against data centers, and people are coming together to there's like Bulgaria or something like that. I forgot, I get the country wrong, but they just overthrew their government, and they did it overnight, and everybody went to work the next day. And they're quickly now realizing that they didn't need it in the first place. We think that if the government goes away, that everything's shut down. Well, remember, every time ever that the government's been shut down recently, everybody goes to work. It has not been necessary, but I digress. But people thinking in herds can be bad. And I think biologically the moon has a lot to do with that. Certainly does. And then our psyche is, I would say, like a reflection of our biology, if we can't, get past it or transcend it, But the very fact of the matter is that everything eats. And that's kind of the idea in this Gnostic thing, is like the world is beautiful. Mountains and sunsets and flowers, Fibonacci sequence and bees and there's beauty. There's a lot of beauty, obviously, but it's all in the food chain. Whereas in the pleroma, everything's running parallel and there's no end. It's everything's eternal and Ouroboros or whatever. But here on Earth, the most beautiful thing that there is still in the food chain. You could be the most guiltless vegan on Earth, but you still have to rip something out of the ground, out of its home, and chew it and kill it and death. So that no matter what, it's always, we're in the food chain. And that's where it gets a little bit where you can't ignore the darkness, because love and light this, love and light that's great. And I do believe in optimism, but we can decide if that food chain, the death, the inevitable part of what ends everything in this world of things temporary, is a bad thing or a good thing. Because you can think about it as an end if you want to, or you can think about it as passing the torch to something, greater than yourself. And if the herd, herd's the wrong word. If the masses, if the whatever came like to that, like acceptance of everything is temporary, then we could all move simultaneously in that direction. All of a sudden, like, we're not a Cancer anymore. We're more of a floral something or whatever. We know that we're going to die, but we sacrifice. What's that quote? A man who plants a tree knowing that he'll never sit in its shade has began to understand the meaning of life, or something like that, whatever it is. I think that, it's something like that. And that would be the idea.
Able to taste the fruit of the tree will have a bear. You won't even be around for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard of different things to that. Yeah.
So we got to break off of being individual that will end, and realize that it's a collective thing. And we are programmed to think that a herd mentality gets rapidly out of control like a fire. In every Disney movie and in school and sci-fi, they all say the same thing. If humanity wasn't so destructive and warmongering, then we could whatever the thing is, to transcend or whatever. And I'm over here like, nobody I know is warmongering. It's, as far as I can tell, it's the same 6 families for the last 5,000 years. So, no, you can have that.
Something I wanted to throw in. Eric, did you have to leave yet so you can say goodbye?
Yeah, I gotta jump off. This would be a good time. Don't stop on my account though. Joey, it was great to meet you. Nick and Judith, it was great to see you again, and I'll catch you guys next time.
I'll see you on the next one.
Very much. Be good, brother. Bye.
Yeah.
Another thing I did want to add in, something, Judith, that you had asked, I guess, if those things could really influence humanity. I think if you start looking at it, and I kind of tried to touch on it a little bit, I think, with like the lunar stuff and even the eclipses, those things eclipses even in a sense as well. But like with the moon and the sun, they have given us systems and increments for us to judge time in different cycles. So if you think about it now, that has come with now all these different stories, pantheons, gods for this and that. Like those things, actually, the way that they go through the sky has given us the whole world. It's fucking basics. I think in a sense, if you really look at it. And again, like the light coming off of the moon, depending on what phase the moon is in, that gets its own story, its own cycles. That's how it even determines the cycle. It's by the new moon, the full moon. And then the light coming off the sun is what's giving us energy and growth and all that. Like if you take those two things and the fact that light is coming off of them, you get the whole time structure that we're in and the beliefs of how we exist.
Yeah.
So it's definitely influenced humanity.
The Druids would, but they would draw, the guys who made Stonehenge and tracked eclipses would draw the crescent moon on their hands. And whenever the new moon came through, they would be like, you see, it's under no obligation to be the same as it was 5 minutes ago. And neither is our entire world.
Like you get months from the moon, but you get seasons from the sun, all these different types of interlaying cycles from both of those planets. Then all the stories that come with that, with them trying to understand it in the past.
Right.
So it's given us everything that we live on today.
Well, it's like we're in that bubble.
If you really think about that shit.
Yeah. I think everything comes from the zodiac, dude. Like all of the esoteric comes from the zodiac. So it's no wonder they try to taint astrology with horoscopes and Sylvia Browns and, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Dude.
They're trying to psych us out from ascending and going through the moon to ascend to our next plane. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I think that's the idea. They want us to be like cattle, and they even have a word for that. But
see, but that's what I wanted to tell you. You said you didn't want to use the term herd mentality. I was like, actually, that's a perfect one.
Yeah, it works. Maybe flock. No, damn it, they took that word too.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
It is.
Flock is accepted though.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Do
you want a quick batshit crazy one schizo post thing real quick before we go?
Yeah.
So do you remember my video called Ringmakers of Saturn? No hate.
Yes.
All right.
I remember that book from back in the day, man. There's some wild pictures in there.
Yeah. So I was obsessed with this, Ringmakers of Saturn. Norman Bergen worked for NASA, and he stole these pictures of Saturn where there's ring termination, and still no one's ever figured out how it could possibly be that these rings are, sometimes when you go up to Saturn, the rings are incomplete. And then they watched these rods, gigantic rods in space, go through and seed the rings of Saturn. And they completed the rings, and the rings would be different next time. And there's tons of pictures of them. He stole as many as he could, but I break them all down in Ringmakers of Saturn. I didn't get it. That was a long episode, so I didn't get a chance to cover everything. He also
they don't know what those rods are. I remember seeing that years ago, but and it quietly disappeared.
Yeah, it goes away pretty quick. And the book came out of being published and everything, and now it becomes like a rare thing or whatever. But along with stealing photographs of Saturn, he also stole pictures of the backside of the moon that we can't see. And it's fucking crazy, dude. So NASA blurs all photos of the moon on the backside. They're locked down. They don't release them unless they're censored. And Norman has pictures of the back of the moon and then recreates them in such a way to show that there's a different version of it. It's really strange. And he mapped out all of these particular symmetrical craters going around this main hole in the moon that's on the back side, and came to a conclusion that those rods, those electromagnetic vehicles that are harvesting or planting the rings of Saturn, they come to the moon every so often and they refill it. Now, this is where it comes right off the hinges, but that's the thing about Norman, is he was not a TikTok sensation or whatever. He was a NASA scientist who quit because he was finding stuff that they would not allow. This is obviously a recreation. I mean,
You know what that fuels, right? Do you know what theory that?
Something about it, yeah. So he mapped it out, and again, that is what makes it so weird, that the moon that it never turns from us. And I invite anybody to stop and think about that for a second. If you take a top and you spin it, it's going to have warbles and wobbles. You can have a perfectly flat surface and spin it absolutely perfectly, but due to the law of entropy, eventually that top will wobble and start to weird. It's unpredictable. And entropy is for the moon to not ever even turn from one side. They put a word on it, a term. They give it a term. They call it tidal locking. And then by having a name, it creates a sensation of normalcy, and it ain't normal. But with what Norman talks about with electromagnetic vehicles in the back of the moon, it starts to get a little wacky, and I think it's worth exploring.
It's definitely interesting stuff. I mean, I remember coming across that book. Oh God, probably back in 2011 or 12.
Yeah. Oh, it's a classic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember back then. I don't think it was like popular enough for people to start, I guess, reprinting, or they're taking advantage. I don't know what it was, but if you found like an actual copy of that online to buy, it was like thousands of dollars because it was so fucking rare.
I got lucky. Yeah. I found one at half price books. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
I was gonna ask, is it still in print? Because I was like, how did he get away with getting that published?
Right.
What year was it published?
Book, actually.
What?
It's a very rare book.
Man.
But nevertheless, people made scans of it and put those online, and then even on my video, I do full screen, showing like what's going on or whatever. So I think at a certain point, they realized that pushing it down only creates more controversy, martyrism, and they stopped. I mean, David Icke got his YouTube channel back because they realized that the most they could do to give him credibility would be to silence him, because his fan base exploded when they deplatformed him, and that it speaks volumes,
Yeah, no, for sure. I remember that. I remember when that shit came down. Yeah, I used to watch David Icke. I wouldn't say religiously, but I did watch his stuff oftenly back then.
Yeah.
I like some of his work, actually.
He's one of the OG. Didn't care what anybody thinks.
I think. Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that. I think, like I was saying in the group text before, I think he says a lot more than people realize. I think he peppers into Gnosticism. For people who are into the occult, they totally see what the fuck he's saying.
He was late to Gnosticism, and that's what's fascinating. All of his core theories were in place already before he found Gnosticism, and then he was like, oh, dude, this is, he gives a talk about it where I forgot, I think it's on YouTube. It's called like Saturn Moon Matrix something or another.
That's a great series.
I gotta say, throughout this entire chat, I said a lot of different stuff than Ike did. But to be clear, he is the father of the Moon Matrix entire lore, But he's like, I've been putting these books out. These books, he's like, this date right now, as I'm giving this talk, my books are out, and I just learned about Gnosticism a month ago, and check this out. And throws everything up on the screen or whatever, and you're like, damn, you know. And by the way, the Gnostic Gospels were found in 1945, so I mean, that shit was new to everybody.
Yeah, I often had wondered, just even other things that they've come across in the Middle East. I even wonder, like, how if certain orders, like even the OTO and the Golden Dawn, if the people who started them would have been around longer, would things maybe a little different because they would have had more stuff to incorporate or with different ways of looking at things.
Right. I wish that Manly P. Hall and Carl Jung and Rudolf
Oh,
Steiner.
yeah, right. Imagine if those guys were around until like the 60s or 70s.
Right. A lot of quantum physicists went to Carl Jung to as a consultant, and that's a whole thing. I've been meaning to touch on it, but there's entire stories about quantum physicists getting the results and going, we can't handle this, and went straight to Jung. It's wild.
That is interesting.
The guy who discovered the 1/1, it's called the fine structure constant, 1/130. It's 1/137, which is the ratio of light to electromagnetism that you need for matter to come into existence from nothingness, from subatomic particles, right? It's a very specific number. And he had no answers for it, but he kept on bothering himself with the alchemist that kept on referencing 3s and 7s. And he was like, okay, I hate to do this, but you're the only guy. Let's talk. And Jung was cool about it. Actually, Jung sent one of his students first, and then that pissed off the scientist. And he was like, I don't want to talk to your student, all right? And Jung was like, no, you're not understanding. He was like, I'll taint your theory. He's like, I have a powerful theorem here, and if I add anything to it, it's going to run. And he didn't understand, but he caught on to it. He's like, that's why I'm sending my student, and then we'll talk to my student, and I won't taint your theory, and you won't taint mine, and then we'll meet. That's a whole story that don't matter. But I'm dying now because I can't remember the quantum physicist's name, but he was the guy who famously said, when I die, the first question I'll have will be why the fine structure constant, and it's probably going to be the devil. That was the whole quote. But he eventually went to a deathbed, and when he died, he was writing on his deathbed saying, I wish I would have spent more time with Jung. I wish I would have paid more attention to the synchronicities, because right now, as I write this in my hospice, I am laying in room 137, and then ... and it trails off. Dude, it's a fucking crazy story, dude.
Wow.
I can't wait to get around to it, but yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Nice. Cool. Judith, did you have anything that you wanted to ask or add?
No, I actually, off of that story, my only question is, was he calm or was he freaking out at that point?
I think he did so much freaking out during his life as a quantum physicist that even freaking out then in that moment was a calm.
Yeah.
You know, there's like a mysterious type of, okay, you know what? Whatever. You know, I didn't figure it out in my life, but, you know, here you go.
Very nice. Thank you very much, dude. That was a lot of shit in this one actual episode. Tell you the truth.
We covered most of it. Now no one's gonna watch my episode.
Shit, I'm sorry.
Is this live?
Yes.
Yeah. He's like, damn it. No, I'm sure you talked about a lot more other stuff too.
I'll go into details and charts and graphs and stuff on the episodes.
See, there you go. That's what's up. Nice. Yeah, man. You could probably pull like 3 separate topics just out of this one discussion. If you're
that's my struggle. That's why the episodes are 2 hours, an hour and a half, hour 40, something like that. Now people are like, "What's taking so long?" I'm like, dude.
Yo, that takes that. Listen, even from my own experience, It takes a while. I'm even starting to knock my shows down to an hour just so I can try to get them out a little bit faster.
Right.
And I do think to an extent, though, when you're getting hit with, like, especially when you're doing solo work, that's a lot of information being actually relayed in a short amount of time.
Right.
You know, so like if you get hit with an hour and a half, like that's a lot to hear. So, you know, maybe trim it down. It's a little bit easier for the listeners. But yeah, I know what you're saying, though. That's a lot of work to do those solo shows. I don't think people realize like all the editing behind it.
There's a lot of editing
with your video. Oh fuck, man.
Right. But also, which by the way, I'm getting Adobe and I'm moving. We'll talk about it, but it's gonna be neater soon. More matured, I think. But one of my biggest problems is that I'll write my script and I'll finish it, and then Anthony is like, I'm available to record on Wednesday, and I'll be like, great, I'm gonna put the script away and not touch it anymore, and then something occurs and I'm like, I gotta add it to the script, and then it just keeps growing or whatever. What's up, dude?
I'll show you from my fish.
What are you showing? What are you doing? Let me see.
This thing, it's a breeding holder.
Okay.
You can put it in a fish tank.
We're breeding fish.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Nice.
What kind of fish?
Put normal Petco or pet like from companies, because they're always like have diseases from being and stuff.
Isolate them.
Yeah, and then you can put them in this. They get through everything. They start breeding.
Right.
You can start giving your fish to them. Yeah.
So if you get fish and you're breeding fish, and some of them have the ick, which is actually the term for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's white dot.
White dots on their fins. You'd have to put them aside so they won't taint the other ones.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
That's not right.
They'll put them in quarantine.
Right. In quarantine, right.
Say, they always have like types of diseases.
Right.
Which is bad for the Oscar.
Right. Before they can be introduced to their new environment, they have to have time isolated first.
I want them to breathe a whole lot.
Right. What if that's the point of the universe we have, is the quarantine until we don't have
I've heard ideas about that.
Ask hot water house downstairs. I have to wash this container before.
Right on, man.
A petri dish. That's all this is.
Dude, there's a weird synchronicity sometimes. I might have projected that one, but when I did my Mars video, he doesn't know what the video's about or whatever, and Anthony's recording me, and I'm at a part in the Mars video in the script where it's a Nephilim thing, and it's Mars. It's all men, and women have to be introduced into the environment, or else the species is in trouble, right? My son comes inside with a bucket of water on this side, is whatever. He's like, Dad, we're in trouble. The creek outside, it's all male crawdads, and we're gonna need to maybe order some female to be able to keep them going, or else they're gonna be really low this coming summer. And Anthony's like, what the fuck? First of all, he's like weirded out because he got a bucket of crawdads from the creek or whatever, but it fit it perfectly into it. It was weird. Yeah,
I like the synchronicity.
All right, tell your buddy Ethan Indigo Smith that I love his book, and I was going to quote from it a bunch today, but I didn't because I'm mad.
Makes it. Yeah, it makes up. Yes, I like that. It was funny. I even noticed it behind you and then totally forgot. But yeah, I like how you have it behind you, man. Thanks.
I think it's good work, and the way he did it is cool. Like the cover is the back. That's neat.
That is cool.
That's fucking cool, man.
Yeah, he's really good. I do like his stuff. Yeah, I have a couple of his books. I think he's a good writer.
Tell him to fuck off. It's over. We're over now, dude. What once was love is smithereens now. Okay.
He's gonna make that extra effort to come on next time, Joey.
I'll let him know. Thank you so much, Joey. It was as usual, it was a banger of a show. Awesome stuff. I always love when you come on. So many things that you touched on that I've thought myself and gone down rabbit holes thinking about. So who knows, man? There might be something to all of that, right?
Absolutely.
Before we wrap it up, Judith, let everybody know what's up with you, where they can find all your amazing work.
First, thank you, Cardinal, for having me on.
course.
Thank you, Joey. It's a pleasure meeting you. Please don't forget to plug your show, where we could watch it on Friday and at what time. And for everybody else, you can find me on YouTube, X, and Spreaker as the Loon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining, Judith. Always.
I like that name, especially suiting for today with the loon. You know, we forgot to talk about the archetype of the lunatic, which is affected by the moon. Not that you are, but a synchronicity nonetheless.
We're all a little
Did you look
loony.
into that and realize that there has been studies on that to show that that's a lot of that stuff isn't actually real?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. When I did it on my the Moon series, there was some
Really?
studies that have shown that certain things really, maybe nowadays it's changed and it's not as it used to be, but they said there's no correlations between people going to crazy places.
What about werewolves? Come on, let's explain that, dog. Werewolves. All right.
Oh, but thank you again, man. Yeah, please. Did you mention Friday when it's coming out?
So on the channel, whenever a new episode drops, we do it live. So I'll be in the chat.
Yeah, premiere, right?
Yeah, premiere. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we chat, whatever. I'll be in there. Everybody watches it and stuff. And then after the premiere, I go live to just talk a bunch of shit, like in live, you know, and like you can see yourself in the chat room or something. And then I can see the chat, and I talk. I can see the chat and I can talk. I swear I can talk.
Yeah,
but,
I see you doing it.
The technology thing is still. I'm doing my best with it. All right, but I love doing it, and I love talking and chatting with the guys, with the chat. And so after the premiere Friday, which is at 4:21 Central Time. So 07/17/26 Friday, 4:21 Central Standard Time. And the reason it's 4:21 is because you gotta smoke that baddie first. And then you get on there.
That is awesome.
A buffer to the existential dread.
I get it, man. I get it. Believe me. That's what's up. Thank you so much again. Everybody, thank you in the chat. That's what's up. That's when we go live. And yeah, until the next one, everybody be well.
See you, man. Thanks.